Well, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Uncle Jay. Today we're going to be getting into the mysterious and eerie world of the Mothman. Now, have you ever heard of this creature? One of the most intriguing cryptid creatures that there is. And one of the best stories, I think, of any cryptid creature out there. So sit back as we separate fact from fiction and we dive into the Mothman. The Mothman legend originated in the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, back in the late 60s. According to eyewitness accounts, the Mothman is described as a creature resembling a humanoid figure with enormous wings, glowing red eyes, and a wingspan of 10 feet or more. Now, the Mothman makes his first appearance on November 15th, 1966. When two couples are traveling down State Route 62, when they encounter something that will forever change their lives. November 15th, 1966, the Mothman emerged from the depths of hell, it seemed, for Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallett. They were driving together on State Route 62 near the abandoned National Guard Armory building and the power plant when they first saw this menacing figure that soon became known as the Mothman. He was 6 to 7 feet tall in the headlights, giant eyes shining bright red. Panic set in, and Roger, the car's driver, sped away towards town. Now, of course, these two young couples were absolutely terrified of what they just witnessed, and Roger had reported that he'd reached speeds of over 100 miles an hour trying to outrun the thing, but it seemed to keep up with him. Now, they reported it to the local sheriff. This is the first encounter. Now, the sheriff of this little town, well, their job's about to get really interesting. Now, it's possible that the Mothman made his debut the day before he started chasing the young couple's car. It's possible that he made a stop at Newell Partridge's home in Salem, West Virginia. Now, this account's chronicled in John Kuhl's book, The Mothman Prophecies. And this is a tale about a German shepherd named Bandit who took off into the woods after two glowing red circles. Now, Partridge said he looked for the dog, but he found nothing but paw prints going in circles. And then they just seemed to go into nowhere. Now, it's very true that this could be the very first Mothman encounter, but two glowing circles doesn't necessarily make a Mothman. But the dog story probably would have never surfaced without the tale of the couples being chased in the car. Now, a few days after the story broke of the young couple's terrifying encounter, there was some grave diggers in a city just a little bit past Point Pleasant that had their own encounter. Now, their report was they saw a thing flying over top of them that had big, large wings that kind of resembled a man, as if perhaps he was on a hang glider or something of that nature. Now, the story only gets more creepy as we go on. Now, there's an alien named Indrid Cold. Now, that could be a story on its own. And if you'd like to see Uncle Jay cover Indrid Cold, well, go ahead and hit the comment. Let me know if you want to see that. And by the way, I know it's like a broken record harping on it, but it really helps the channel out. If you don't mind, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. And like I said, it just really helped us out. Let's get on with the story. Now, during World War II, the region of Point Pleasant, with more than 8,000 acres, was devoted to an ammunition manufacturing facility. It employed a few thousand people at its peak, and for safety reasons, the explosives were stored in bunkers or igloos that were covered and disguised by thick layers of earth. This area was later nicknamed the TNT area, and this is where a lot of the Mothman sightings took place. Now, what leads to the intrigue and the ominous nature of the Mothman? Well, for the very fact that he was seen for almost 13 months in the little town of Point Pleasant. And then on December 15th, 1967, the Point Pleasant Silver Bridge collapsed, taking 46 lives in the cold, watery depths below. Now, there were numerous accounts of individuals that claimed to see the Mothman on the bridge leading up to the collapse. And they still paint a vivid picture of the creature. Now, according to these eyewitnesses, the Mothman stood around 7 feet tall, with a large wingspan that allowed him to glide effortlessly through the air. But its eyes, its piercing, glowing red eyes, seemed to hypnotize all those who encountered it. Now, these stories had started gaining national attention way before the bridge collapse, which led to a very famous New York Post reporter investigating these stories that later led to a book called The Mothman Prophecies in 1975. Now, this author was John Keel, and it later became a blockbuster in Hollywood called The Mothman Prophecies. But what did they really see in Point Pleasant? Was the things in the ammunition dump, were they strong enough to actually cause some type of mutation in a bird or some other kind of creature? Who knows? This story even goes even further. So hang with me. Well, now, of course, we wouldn't think the media would ever do anything to manipulate the perception of the public, would they? To sell books? To make a movie? Of course not. They'd never do that. No. So, is what John Keel experienced in Point Pleasant a true encounter? Or was it just to sell the book? Well, who knows? But we do know this. The Mothman has been seen in many other places beside Point Pleasant. Now, it's been reported that the Mothman's been seen right before major and horrific events, for instance, like the earthquake in Mexico City and 9/11, the tragic event of the Twin Towers. Now, the Mothman was never seen again in Point Pleasant after the Silver Bridge collapse. Now, was the Silver Bridge collapse just enough to divert the people from the town's attention because it was so tragic and everyone in the town knew someone that was involved in the horrific accident? Or had the Mothman just served his purpose and moved on? Well, if you like this kind of stuff and you like what Uncle Jay's doing, do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. And no matter what you think about the Mothman, whether you believe it's true or not, well, it's a nice, quaint little town, and they have their own museum and a festival dedicated to the Mothman. And if you get a chance, go check it out. Let that American flag wave at the end, and we'll see you next time.